Alright, let's get real here because somebody needs to say it, and say it loud. We're facing a crisis in this country, in our communities, in our homes, that's tearing families apart at the seams. And no, I'm not talking about the usual suspects you hear about on the news every night. The greatest crisis a child can face isn't poverty, though that's a tough road, no doubt. It's not bullying, as vicious and damaging as that can be. It's not even the staggering cost of college, which is a burden for so many. The real, gut-wrenching crisis, the one that leaves the deepest scars, is a father who left. A father who walked away or was pushed out. It doesn't matter how it happened, the devastation is the same, you hear me? Whether he packed his bags because he thought the grass was greener, whether he left because she cheated and he couldn't face it, whether it was pure, unadulterated cowardice, or whether he felt he was pushed out, forced out, alienated until he just gave up. The end result for that child is a catastrophe. We're talking about a child left adrift with no compass to guide them, no true north to help them navigate the storms of life. They're handed a future with no blueprint, no clear plans, just a gaping hole where a foundation should be. This isn't just about a broken heart, it's about a broken legacy, a foundation that's crumbled before the house could even be built. This is about the silent suffering of millions of kids who look around and see an empty chair at the dinner table, an empty space in their heart. They're growing up with a fundamental piece missing from their puzzle. And we, as a society, have gotten too comfortable, too complacent about it. We've normalized it, excused it, and sometimes we've even enabled it. But the truth is, the absence of a father casts a long, dark shadow over a child's life, impacting everything from their self-esteem to their ability to form healthy relationships, to their very understanding of who they are. When a man decides to walk out on his family, let's be crystal clear, he's not just slamming the door on a marriage, he's not just betraying the vows he made to his wife, as serious as that is. No, it goes so much deeper, so much more catastrophically than that. He is, in that moment, detonating a bomb in the heart of his children's world. It didn't just destroy trust between two adults, it fundamentally disrupted an entire bloodline, sending shockwaves down through generations. You see, the day you became a father, your role shifted. You weren't just a lover, a partner, a husband anymore. You became a leader, a protector, a guide. And what happens when the leader abandons the structure? What happens when the captain deserts the ship in the middle of a storm? The whole kingdom collapses. The entire vessel is set adrift, vulnerable to every predator, every rogue wave. Children look to their fathers for strength, for stability, for a sense of security in an often chaotic world. When that father vanishes, that security shatters into a million pieces. It's not just about missing a playmate or a provider. It's about losing a cornerstone of their identity, a fundamental source of their self-worth. This isn't some abstract psychological theory. This is the raw, painful reality for countless children. They internalize that absence. They ask themselves, was I not good enough? Was I not lovable enough? Is it my fault he left? These are questions no child should ever have to carry. The weight of that abandonment can crush their spirit, shaping their view of themselves and the world around them for years, even decades to come. It's a wound that festers, often unseen, but always felt. Think about the message it sends. When a father chooses to leave, he's teaching his children that commitments are conditional, that love can be withdrawn, that promises can be broken without a second thought. He's modeling a pattern of behavior that they may, tragically, repeat in their own lives. The legacy of an absent father isn't just an empty space, it's a blueprint for dysfunction, a cycle of pain that can be incredibly difficult to break. This is the collateral damage that so many men fail to consider in their moment of departure. The betrayal isn't just personal, it's structural. A family is a system, and a father is an integral, load-bearing part of that system. When you remove that part, the whole thing becomes unstable. The mother is often left to pick up the pieces, to be both mother and father. A task that is Herculean and, frankly, often impossible to fulfill completely, no matter how heroic her efforts. Now let's turn the coin over because this isn't a one-sided issue. Far from it. While we've talked about fathers who abdicate their responsibilities, we also have to address the women who actively and sometimes maliciously push fathers out. And let's not pretend here, in many cases the law is on your side. The family court system, whether by design or by default, often appears to favor the mother. Society, too, is quick to rally around a woman claiming victimhood, quick to label her brave. even if the reality is far more complicated, even if her motives are rooted in bitterness, anger, or petty revenge. But here's the hard truth. Just because you legally marginalize or completely oust a father from his children's lives doesn't mean you. Just because you can use the courts as a weapon to settle personal scores, to inflict pain on a man who hurt you, doesn't make it right. When you make the deliberate choice to push a father out, to sever that bond, not because he's a danger, but because your emotions have changed, because you want to win, you're not demonstrating power, you're engaging in generational sabotage, plain and simple. You think you're protecting your children? You think you're acting in their best interest? I'm telling you, in most cases where the father is willing and capable, you are profoundly mistaken. Children don't care about your bruised ego. They don't care who was right or wrong in the adult relationship. What they care about, what they desperately need, is consistency. They need the love, guidance, and presence of both their parents wherever humanly possible. They need to know that both people who brought them into this world are still there for them. Weaponizing children in a divorce or separation is one of the cruelest, most damaging things a parent can do. Using them as pawns in your emotional chess game, poisoning their minds against their other parent, restricting access out of spite. These are acts of profound selfishness, dressed up as maternal concern. You might win the battle in court, you might get the house, the lion's share of custody, the sympathetic ears of your friends. But what have you truly won if, in the process, you've robbed your children of a father? The bitterness you feel towards your ex-partner is an adult issue. It should remain an adult issue. Dragging your children into that toxic swamp, forcing them to choose sides, making them feel guilty for loving their father. That's emotional abuse. And the scars it leaves are just as deep, just as lasting, as those left by an abandoning father. You're creating a loyalty bind that no child should ever have to navigate. You're teaching them that love is a battlefield, that relationships are about power and control. And don't think for a second that the kids don't see it, even if they don't have the words to articulate it. They feel the tension, they sense the animosity, they understand on a primal level when one parent is actively working to undermine their relationship with the other. It creates anxiety, confusion, and a deep sense of insecurity. They learn to walk on eggshells, to say what they think you want to hear, rather than what they truly feel. Is that the kind of environment you want to raise a child in? So, if you're a woman who has the power, legally or emotionally, to influence your children's access to their father, I urge you to look deep within yourself. Are your actions truly about protecting your children from genuine harm? Or are they about punishing your ex? Are they about control? Are they about your own unresolved anger and pain? Because if it's the latter, you need to understand that you are inflicting a wound on your children that may never fully heal. Remember, a father's role is unique and irreplaceable, just as a mother's is. To intentionally deprive a child of that, barring situations of clear abuse or danger, is to willingly handicap them for life. You may feel justified in your anger. You may feel righteous in your actions, but the ultimate price is paid by the children. And that's a truth you can't litigate away. Stop the war for their sake. This isn't just my opinion, folks. This isn't just some old-fashioned sentimental notion about the good old days. This is backed by an overwhelming mountain of research, by study after study, by cold, hard data. You can try to argue with it, you can try to rationalize it away, you can try to rewrite the narrative to fit your circumstances, but you can't rewrite the fundamental truth. Kids do better, significantly better, when they have a loving, engaged father present in their lives. The science is clear, and it's time we all started paying attention. Let's look at the facts. Studies consistently show that boys raised without fathers are at a significantly higher risk for a whole host of problems. They are more likely to struggle with aggression, more likely to engage in delinquent behavior, more likely to end up in trouble with the law, and yes, more likely to become violent themselves. They lack that crucial male role model to teach them how to channel their energy, how to manage their emotions, how to become responsible, respectful men. This isn't about blaming single mothers. It's about acknowledging a statistical reality. And what about our daughters? Girls raised without fathers face their own unique set of challenges. They are more likely to experience emotional and psychological problems, more likely to engage in early sexual activity, more likely to become pregnant as teenagers, and tragically, more likely to be exploited by predatory men. They often search for that missing paternal validation in all the wrong places, leading to a cycle of unhealthy relationships and low self-esteem. A father's presence provides a sense of security and worth that helps insulate them from these risks. Beyond these gender-specific outcomes, all children suffer emotionally when dad becomes a ghost, a distant memory, or a forbidden topic. The absence of a father is a consistent predictor of lower academic achievement, higher rates of substance abuse, and increased likelihood of mental health issues like depression and anxiety. We've normalized single motherhood in our society, and while many single mothers do an absolutely heroic job under incredibly difficult circumstances, we cannot pretend that it's the ideal, or that it comes without significant challenges for the children involved. If you're offended by that statement, if you're feeling defensive, I invite you to take a hard look at the statistics. Check the prison stats, see how many inmates grew up without a father. Check the high school dropout stats, see the correlation with father absence. Check the depression and suicide stats among young people, see the undeniable link. These aren't coincidences. Father absence is not just a personal wound, it's a societal crisis with far-reaching and devastating consequences. It's a curse that can echo through generations. The bond between a father and child is unique. Fathers tend to interact with their children differently than mothers do. They often encourage more risk-taking, engage in more physical play, and push children to be more independent. These interactions are crucial for healthy development, for building resilience, for teaching problem-solving skills. When a father is absent, children miss out on these vital experiences, and that developmental gap can be incredibly difficult to fill. Some will argue that a bad father is worse than no father at all, and in cases of abuse or severe dysfunction, that may be true. But we're talking about the vast majority of situations where a father is capable and willing, or could become so with support and guidance. To deny a child that relationship based on adult conflicts or societal indifference is to ignore the overwhelming scientific evidence that points to the profound benefits of paternal involvement. So, let's stop making excuses. Let's stop pretending that fatherhood is optional or interchangeable. The data speaks for itself. Children need their fathers, they thrive with their fathers, their futures are brighter, their lives are healthier, their potential is more fully realized when a father is an active, loving presence. It's time we, as individuals and as a society, started treating fatherhood with the critical importance it scientifically deserves. Alright men, I'm talking directly to you now. You want to be a father? You think you're ready to bring a child into this world? Then it's time to stop acting like a frat boy who accidentally stumbled into a lifetime of responsibilities. It's time to grow up, step up, and understand what true fatherhood, true leadership, actually entails. Because too many of you are diving headfirst into creating families when you haven't even learned how to lead yourselves, let alone guide a vulnerable, dependent human being. Leadership isn't about convenience. It's not about showing up when it suits you, when it's fun, when there's a photo opportunity. Fatherhood is a covenant. It's a sacred, lifelong promise you make not just to your child but to their future, to their well-being, to their very soul. It's a commitment that demands sacrifice, patience, unwavering presence, and a level of maturity that many of you are, frankly, sorely lacking when you make the decision to procreate. You think because you can biologically create a child, that automatically makes you a father? Let me disabuse you of that notion right now. Sperm donation does not equal fatherhood. Fatherhood is earned, day in and day out, through your actions, your choices, your dedication. It's about being there for the scraped knees and the sleepless nights, for the school plays and the heartbreaks, for the tough conversations and the quiet moments of connection. It's not a part-time gig. And if you can't keep your vows to your partner, if you can't maintain a stable, respectful relationship with the mother of your child, how in the world do you expect to model healthy relationships for that child? How do you expect loyalty and respect from your children later in life when you've shown them that your commitments are flimsy, that your word means very little when things get tough? You're setting an example, whether you realize it or not, and it's often a terrible one. Stop treating women as conquests and children as byproducts. If you're not ready to put someone else's needs before your own, if you're not ready to dedicate the next 2 decades and beyond to the demanding, all-consuming job of raising a human being, then do everyone a favor and keep your pants zipped. The world doesn't need more children brought into unstable situations by men who are still boys themselves. This isn't about shaming you, it's about waking you up to the profound responsibility you're undertaking. Before you even think about starting a family, you need to ask yourself some hard questions. Are you emotionally mature? Are you financially stable, or at least working diligently towards it? Are you prepared to be a consistent, reliable presence in a child's life, no matter what happens in your relationship with their mother? Are you willing to learn, to grow, to make mistakes and own them? Because if the answer to any of those questions is no, or even a hesitant maybe, then you're not ready. And bringing a child into that unpreparedness is an act of profound irresponsibility. You're not just risking your own future happiness, you're gambling with the emotional and psychological well-being of an innocent child. That child deserves a father who is all in, not 1 foot out the door, not one who sees fatherhood as an option he can toggle on and off. So take a good long look in the mirror, be honest with yourself. If you're not prepared to lead, to sacrifice, to commit fully and unconditionally, then don't start a family. Work on yourself first. Become the man a child deserves before you dare to call yourself a father, because the consequences of getting it wrong are too devastating to ignore. Now ladies, let's have a frank conversation, because this is a two-way street and your role in a child's access to their father is absolutely critical. You fell out of love with your husband or partner, okay, that happens. Marriages end, relationships dissolve, that's a painful reality of life for many. But here's where a lot of you get it twisted. The end of your romantic relationship does not and should not automatically cancel his role as a father. Those are two entirely separate contracts, two entirely different commitments. You moved on, you found someone new, great for you, I genuinely hope you find happiness. But that doesn't mean the father of your children magically disappears from their lives or that his importance is somehow diminished. He is still their father. He still has a right, and more importantly, a responsibility to be involved in their upbringing, their joys, their sorrows, their milestones. And your children have an absolute fundamental right to have him in their lives, assuming he's not a genuine threat. When you actively work to turn your child against their father, when you subtly or overtly sabotage their relationship, you're not protecting them, no matter how you try to justify it to yourself. You're punishing them. You're using them as a weapon in your unresolved conflict with your ex. You're forcing them to choose between the two people they should be able to love freely and unconditionally. And trust me on this, they will resent you for it when they grow up and understand the game that was played with their hearts. Think about the message you're sending. Your father is no good. He doesn't love you as much as I do. We're better off without him. These toxic narratives chip away at a child's sense of security, their identity, and their ability to trust. Half of their heritage, half of who they are, is being systematically devalued in their eyes by the person they trust most. You. How incredibly damaging is that? How confusing must that be for a young mind to process? Your bitterness, your anger, your hurt, those are your burdens to carry and to work through. Don't dump them onto your children's shoulders. Don't make them the casualties of your emotional war. It's your job as the custodial parent, or even as a co-parent, to facilitate and support their relationship with their other parent, not to act as a gatekeeper who grants or denies access based on your mood or your personal feelings about your ex. I understand that co-parenting with someone you no longer love, or perhaps even actively dislike, can be incredibly challenging. It requires maturity, patience, and a willingness to put your children's needs far above your own desires for revenge or vindication. But that's what good parenting is. It's about making the hard choices, the selfless choices, for the well-being of your kids. It's about rising above the conflict for their sake. So if the marriage died, mourn it. Deal with your pain. But do not let that death infect your child's relationship with their father. Don't use your children as pawns to win against him. Encourage contact. Speak respectfully of him in their presence, even if it grits your teeth. Remember, he is a part of them, and when you attack him, you are, in a very real way, attacking a part of your own child. Your child deserves to know and love their father, and to be known and loved by him. Don't be the architect of their estrangement. Don't be the reason they grow up with a father-shaped hole in their heart that you help to dig. Rise above it. For their sake, find a way to co-parent with civility and respect, because their future depends on it. There's this pervasive myth out there, this comforting lie we tell ourselves, that children are resilient, that they'll bounce back from anything, divorce, separation, the absence of a parent. We see them playing, we see them going to school. Maybe they even put on a brave face, and we think, oh, they're fine, they're adapting, don't be fooled. That smile you see is very often a mask covering a world of confusion and pain. That silence isn't acceptance. It's frequently a hiding place for trauma they don't know how to express. That "I'm fine, you hear?" It's often a rehearsed line, something they've learned to say because it's easier than trying to explain the turmoil raging inside them, or because they don't want to burden you with their sadness. Children are incredibly perceptive. They pick up on the unspoken tensions, the lingering resentments, the emotional minefields in a fractured family. They learn very quickly what topics are safe and what topics will cause more adult conflict, so they often choose silence as a form of self-preservation. They notice things, you know. They notice when your new partner starts getting more of your attention, your time, your energy, than they do. They notice when they stop being invited to family events on their father's side, or when their father stops calling as much because the atmosphere is too fraught. They feel it deeply when love starts feeling like a competition, when they feel caught in the middle, pressured to choose sides, or when they sense that one parent's affection is conditional on their rejection of the other. They're not adapting in the healthy way you might imagine. They're often breaking quietly, piece by piece, on the inside. They're learning to suppress their feelings, to build walls around their hearts, to distrust the stability of relationships. These are not the lessons we want our children to learn. These are the seeds of future dysfunction, future anxiety, future difficulties in forming their own healthy attachments. The quiet child is not necessarily the resilient child. They may very well be the child who is suffering the most profoundly. Think about what it's like for them. Their entire world has been turned upside down. The two people who were supposed to be their anchors, their constants, are now separated, perhaps warring. Their home may have changed, their routines are disrupted, and in the midst of all this chaos, they're expected to just carry on, as if nothing major has happened. It's an impossible ask for a little person who is still trying to figure out how the world works. The absence of a parent, whether physical or emotional, creates a void, and children, in their own way, will try to make sense of that void. They might blame themselves. They might act out in school or at home, not because they're bad kids, but because they're hurting and don't know how else to get your attention or express their distress. They might withdraw, becoming shadows of their former selves because it feels safer than engaging with a world that feels unpredictable and painful. So, please, stop assuming your children are fine just because they're not screaming and crying every minute of the day. Look closer, listen harder, not just to their words but to their silences, to their behaviors. Create a safe space for them to express their true feelings without fear of judgment or reprisal. Acknowledge their pain, validate their confusion, reassure them that it's not their fault. Because children aren't miniature adults with fully formed coping mechanisms. They are vulnerable beings who are deeply affected by the choices and conflicts of the adults around them. Their quietness is often a sign that they are carrying a burden far too heavy for their young shoulders. Don't mistake that quiet for resilience. Recognize it as a cry for help, a plea for understanding, a signal that they are breaking ever so quietly on the inside. Let's talk about our boys for a minute, and what happens when their primary male role model, their father, is absent from their lives. You can sit a boy down and lecture him all day long about what it means to be a good man, about responsibility, respect, integrity. You can give him books to read and talks to listen to, but boys don't truly become men through lectures and abstract lessons. They become men, in large part, by watching one, by observing, by internalizing the behavior of the significant men in their lives. And if you, as a father, are not around, if that chair is empty, if that example is missing, they will find their models of masculinity elsewhere. And trust me, the alternatives are often far from ideal. They'll look to the streets where masculinity might be defined by toughness, aggression, and a disregard for rules or authority. They'll look to the screen, to movies, video games, and social media, where manhood is often portrayed as shallow, materialistic, predatory, or violent. Or they'll find it in the chaos of dysfunctional environments where power and control are mistaken for strength. None of these places, none of these distorted mirrors of manhood, are likely to build the kind of men you'd be proud of. They won't cultivate men of character, empathy, or true strength. Instead, they risk creating another generation of young men who are confused about their identity, who struggle with emotional expression, who may perpetuate cycles of irresponsibility or even abuse because they simply don't know any better. They haven't seen a healthy, consistent example of what it truly means to be a man. A father's presence provides a living blueprint. It shows a boy how to treat women with respect, how to handle conflict constructively, how to persevere in the face of adversity, how to be both strong and gentle, how to take responsibility for his actions. It's in the day-to-day interactions, the shared experiences, the quiet moments of guidance, that these crucial lessons are absorbed. It's about seeing his father get up and go to work every day, seeing him honor his commitments, seeing him navigate the complexities of life with integrity. When a father is absent, a boy is left to piece together his understanding of masculinity from fragments, often from unreliable and damaging sources. He may develop a warped sense of what it means to be strong, mistaking bravado for courage, or stoicism for emotional control. He may struggle to form healthy relationships because he hasn't seen one modeled effectively. He may lack the confidence and self-assurance that come from having a father figure who believes in him and guides him. This isn't to say that mothers can't raise good sons. Many do, and they do an incredible job against the odds, but a mother cannot a father. She cannot model masculinity in the same way a man can. Boys need to see men navigating the world, interacting with others, handling responsibilities, expressing emotions in healthy ways. They need that specific gender role modeling to fully develop their own sense of masculine identity. So fathers, your presence is not just about providing, it's about embodying. It's about being the living example your son needs to see. And if you're not there, you're creating a vacuum that will be filled, often by influences that are detrimental to his development. You have a profound responsibility to show your son what it means to be a good man, not just by telling him, but by living it every single day. And for mothers raising sons without a consistent father figure, it's crucial to seek out positive male role models, uncles, grandfathers, coaches, mentors, who can help fill that gap. But let's be clear, that's a supplement, not a replacement for the ideal. The most powerful model of masculinity a boy can have is a loving, engaged, and present father. Don't underestimate the critical importance of that modeled behavior. So, let's bottom line this because it's too important to mince words. You don't stop being a father because you failed as a husband. That's a hard pill to swallow for some of you, but it's the truth. Men, you may have lost the marriage. The relationship may be over, done, finished, but your mission as a father, that mission is lifelong. It doesn't end when the divorce papers are signed. It doesn't end when she moves on. Your children still need you, perhaps more than ever, to be a constant guiding force in their lives. Don't lose your mission in the wreckage of a failed romance. And women, you may be hurt, you may be angry, you may feel betrayed, and your pain might be entirely valid. But don't hijack your child's future to soothe your ego or to punish your ex. Don't let your bitterness become the barrier that separates your child from their father. Because when a father walks away or is pushed out, everyone pays. There are no winners in that scenario. The kids pay the heaviest price, their emotional well-being compromised, their sense of security shattered. The legacy you hope to build together pays, as dysfunction often repeats itself. The very soul of the next generation pays, as they struggle to find their footing without that crucial paternal foundation. So whether you're the man who strayed, who made mistakes, who walked away when things got tough, or you're the woman who shut the door, who put up walls, who used the children as leverage, fix it. It's not too late to try and repair the damage, to rebuild bridges, to put the children's needs above your own adult conflicts. Because children don't care who was right or who was wrong in the adult drama. They just want both parents to stay in the fight for them, to be present, to be involved, to love them unconditionally. The place of a father can never be overemphasized. It is foundational, it is critical, and it is irreplaceable.